Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Willem.
Morning, everyone.
Thank
Morning.
you for being here. We see that quite a couple of people are already joining. We want to give some other people 1, 2 minutes before we can start. So if you want to grab a cup of coffee, perhaps you have to be really quick, but you can do that. Okay. Well, we see that some more people have joined. So shall we just start this webinar?
Yep, sounds good.
So welcome everybody to this webinar about improving collaboration in a flexible office. First of all, I want to start with telling a little bit about who we are today. So my name is Jan Maurice, perhaps a new face to some of you. I'm working with GoBright now for around 3 years. I'm working there in the sales consultancy role as channel development manager. Today, I'm joined by my colleague Willem. He's our product manager.
Hi, nice to meet you all.
And behind the scenes, our marketing manager Bianca is also helping with all the questions that you have. So if you have any questions this webinar, feel free to put them in the chat. We think that we will first tell a little bit of the story that we want to tell you today, and after that, we have some time for questions. And around that time, Bianca will tell us some of your questions. So we want to talk today about improving collaboration in the flexible office. So what you see here is an overview of some of the activities that we do as the GoBright team. So as you all know, perhaps, we are based mainly in the Netherlands, or at least mainly Europe. So some of these pictures are also from other continents. So in that, we see that we as GoBright team, when we want to work together, we are at quite a lot of different places. So the office for us is not always at one location, but still we are a team that wants to work together. So I might need Willem to ask him a question, or I might need Chris or Bianca or someone else of our team. And then what we want to talk about today is how can we then improve that collaboration? Because when we see that the office is not anymore in one specific location, but it changes more than once, then how do I know where my colleagues are, for example? So we can also understand that perhaps what we just showed about what we did, so a trip to the Grand Canyon or something like that, is not something that every typical company is struggling with. So if we cut it down to the two most important ones, we see that there's a lot of questions about working from home or working in the office. If that's your own office or an office somewhere else, those are the most important things that we see. And we see in that you choose for these for different reasons. So for myself, for example, when I'm being at home, I don't have to commute, or I can perhaps do the laundry really quick between all the meetings that we have. Or when I'm in the office, I want to meet people and collaborate with them. So these are two different options that we see a lot of people are choosing between. And when we want to do one or the other, it's always good to know where my colleagues will be. So perhaps you know the GoBright solution that we have at this moment, where we are looking at the solution that we have and answering questions of what is actually available in our office. So we can, for example, book locations that we need. We can book a desk, we can book a meeting room, and in some way we can already see that who will be in the office. So where will my colleague be? But to work together, we want to improve that into a better ID where we can exactly see who will be where at what moment. So if I want to work together with Willem, of course I can fill in his name, search for a colleague, and then find him. But if I want to collaborate with people and working more together, what we think is mostly the office life about, then how can we actually do that? So we have already what is available, but now also the question who is actually available. And for that, we launched a couple of weeks ago a new part of our solution, which is the week planner. So with the week planner, we want to answer a couple of specific things, which is who, where, and when. So who will actually be at what location and what times? Well, I have my product manager, Willem, here as well, and he wants to show you a little bit around how the week planner looks like and what we can do with it.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. I will take you through the week planner and yeah, through the system, how to set it up and what a user can do within the week planner. Yeah, as mentioned from Jan Maurice, the week planner is designed to improve the collaboration between users of the office building. We, of course, already provided via the search colleague functionality a way to really specifically see where a user is working in the office if they have booked a resource. However, that wasn't always sufficient enough to get answers to the questions you needed and to plan your week ahead. Because that really was in specific to a certain colleague. And if you wanted to work with more colleagues or with a team, that was, of course, more clicks, more time consuming to really get a clear overview of who is when in the office and in what office, for example, are they then, and can we collaborate at that moment. So we saw that question arising from a lot of our customers that they have been struggling with the fact that users had a new motivation to go to the office. So they were going to the office, as mentioned, to collaborate with team members and not specifically to work anymore. But they were always struggling with the fact that they didn't exactly knew when their team members or when their favorite colleagues were in the office, so that they had actually a productive day when they went to the office. We saw it here in our office as well. Sometimes you then drove like an hour to the office to work there and hopefully to get in touch with some of your colleagues. But then arriving at the office, you saw that they actually worked from home. So that was then sometimes quite disappointing. That's something we want to improve to give users actually more insights in their team, in their week planning, so to say, so that you can effectively plan your week ahead as well. So how does this work in the GoBright application? Of course, there's a user part and there's an admin part. There are different ways of setting it up. But as you can see, there's already a significant change in the front end or on the dashboard as you know it. Normally, of course, you just had your personal desk, parking space, and meetings. But now we actually added a part here for that day where you can actually see which team members are at the office at the moment. You can also see an overall occupancy of the office which you have selected. So for Rotterdam here, for example, and you can actually amend your own planning for that day. So how, as an admin, do I set this up before a user is actually able to use this? So on the commercial side, Jan Maurice will talk about it a little bit later, but the week planner is an additional product to our system. So it's a license which you can purchase, and you can actually allocate the week planner to a location. So just as our visitor module, as we have in the system, when you have a location, we actually added an extra setting that you can use this as a working location for the week planner. And by this setting, you are actually able as a admin to select which locations users can select in their week planner. So what are the locations they can actually fill in that they're going to? I would always advise to keep it as high level because from the bookings you can go into more detail where users actually are. So for example, if you have 3 buildings here in the Netherlands, in Rotterdam, Amsterdam, and Utrecht, I would keep it as the parent locations, Rotterdam, for example, or in our case, Berlin, what then the week planner locations are, so that people feel and that they go to that specific office and not actually to the locations themselves. But it is possible. So you could actually also fill in for the ground floor for the marketing department as a week planner location as well. So when this is selected, that location will also be selectable here as a location. There are 3 other default locations which can be preset. That's remote, on the road, and the day off, because those are statuses which are also default for everyone around the world. Once we've set up those locations, then actually we can give users access to the week planner, because I can also imagine that, for example, not every team wants to use this, not every location from a customer wants to use this, or that they actually want to test it first in a specific user group. So we have added a new user role where we actually allow access to the week planner. So you can specifically say which users from a customer have access to the week planner. And this is included with the licenses. So if you have, of course, one location, which is a week planner location, then the unlimited amount of users can have access to this. How this week planner works is that it also looks at the locations which you have access to. So for example, which I just showed you, we have Berlin and we have Rotterdam as locations selected for the week planner location. But in this user role, this user actually will only have access to the Rotterdam location and the first floor and the sales department in that location. That actually means that if I would log in with a user with this user role, when they are in the week planner, they are only able to select Rotterdam and not Berlin. This is designed in that way because we also believe if you do not have access to any resources to book there, then it's also not logical that you will work there. Therefore, it only makes your choices confusing because Berlin is actually not a working location for you, so then it also shouldn't show up. So this is, yeah, quite straightforward. There's not too much to set up in a way. So you have the locations where you select which locations are a week planner location, and of course you have the user roles. Then, of course, as mentioned, you want to see your teams. So this is something which is already available in the system for the team booking functionality in our desk booking product. But we have the ability to create teams. So here you can actually create teams and you can put in the employees who are part of this team, so that people can easily see, of course, those team members when they're in the office and where they will be. We will actually also implement 2 new features in the synchronization part. So that's also that we will synchronize department. So then there were 2 ways to actually be part of a team. So one is that you actually create teams yourself, and the other one is that you are synchronized in a team by the department level from the Active Directory, for example. And the second thing which we will be able to synchronize from the Active Directory is that you can synchronize photos from the team members as well. So now, as you can see, you see the initials here, but it will also be possible that pictures can be shown there from the users themselves. So that's just more on the design part of things. But the department and team teams are quite important for users because that's, of course, the information which they want to know. So then on the user side of things, I can actually stop sharing my screen and go to another user to show you how they can set it up and how it then will work. So we are now in a new environment, and this is actually a user with the user role which I just showed you, and they did not set up their week planner yet. So when a user logs in and they have access to the week planner, the first time they will actually see this message where they are actually able to configure their default week. This is something we've created because we see from experience and from our customers that a lot of the users have a standardized week plan when they go to the office. So for example, my week plan is I go on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday to the office, and Tuesday and Friday I work from home. And 95% of the time that is actually the case. There are of course some weeks where that's different, but I will show you how that will work. But for that default week, we actually want to provide an option to fill that in so that that also is always automatically filled in for you in the future, so that you do not have to actually, as a user, go into the system every week to create your week plan, so that a lot of that is already standardized. So what are things that I can fill in my default week as a user? That's the default office which I'm going to. Well, as mentioned, this user role only has access to Rotterdam, so then I'm also only able to choose Rotterdam as my default office. And I can choose my default team, and these are the teams which I'm actually part of, or the department which is synchronized, which I'm part of. And these two actually have influence on the information which you see when you do not have a different location selected. And I will actually show you in a minute what I mean by that. And then you are actually able here to preset what your schedule will be. So for example, this user is on Monday in Rotterdam, Tuesday they work remote, on Wednesday they're also in Rotterdam, on Thursday they also work in the perhaps from home, and then on Friday they actually have the morning in the office, but in the afternoon they have the day off. So there are actually two settings which you can do. You can choose your whole day schedule, or you can choose between morning and afternoon. So when I save this, this will be my default week. So what that means is that if I go here now for today, it's Thursday, I have selected that I will work remote today, then you can see that information is here as well. And here then the actual information comes from the default team and the default location. So your default team is then always presented here. So that was sales. So as you can see, these are the sales colleagues in the office today. And then the office occupancy, that's also the default location which I've selected. So if you're not choosing a location here, so if I would have Berlin as an option as well, and I would select Berlin, then also this office occupancy at the office would change to the one from Berlin. So then, of course, we've only seen the day planner, as we call it, but now we can, via this button, go to the week planner, and here you can actually see a quick overview of what's happening in the office. So here you can see all the different team members for each day who will be in the office, what the overall occupancy will be. So if it's very busy, you could perhaps choose not to go to the office, or you could go to the office because you think, a lot of people will be there. So that's nice to meet a lot of people. Or you actually want to collaborate with people but have a quiet time, then you choose a day where it's actually less busy in the office. So as you can see, my default week is filled in, and I can actually scroll through the upcoming weeks to actually see my planning ahead. The default week is always filled in, but if I want to, for example, next day, Tuesday, I have an important meeting in the office, so I know I will have to go, I can easily amend it here, and then other users will see that I will go to the office that day. Another way that works is that we also have connected this to the desk booking. And why only to the desk booking? Because with room booking, it could also mean that you work from home, because now meetings are, of course, also hybrid. So if I have a meeting in my agenda, it doesn't always mean that I'm physically present at the office. So therefore, we only chose to connect it to the desks. And what happens when I book a desk for a day when I do not actually have selected that I will be in the office? The system will then actually provide me with a prompt to automatically change my location as well. So this way we will actually help the user by keeping their week planner up to date. So now for that Tuesday, instead of remote, it automatically changes the status to Rotterdam. Yeah, so that's helpful in that case. Then of course, this is quite a high overview of the planning for that week. But you can also go into more detail. So here you can actually see specifically per team member what their planning is for that week. So you can see with icons, for example, the differences. If you hover over it, you will see even more details. But for example, Rosalie is on Thursday today in Rotterdam, and I want to exactly know where she works, then I can click on the view bookings part and it will redirect me automatically to the find my colleague functionality, where Rosalie is automatically filled in and searched for, and then I can see which booking she has for today. So then I can see that exactly the desk 9 booking is made, and then I can see where that is, and of course then book adjacent if I want to. So in this way, you can really go from high level to really into detail where a certain team member is and to work together. So via this process, we really want to make it as efficient as possible for users. Then we've added a small other thing. Now we can actually also see some user information. So when you hover over a user, you can see the email address, and if it is actually in the system, you would also be able to see the phone number to get easily in contact with your colleagues. There will be some additions later there, but I will be coming up to those things later in the webinar. As mentioned, there is a commercial model connected to this week planner. So yeah, Jan-Maurice will tell a little bit more about that now. So I will hand it over back to Jan-Maurice.
Thank you, Willem. Yeah, so we see that with this week planner, we are also looking more and more into, so to say, the human part of the office. So we see that it is not only technology that people need to adapt to, but it's more the other way around. So people behave in a certain way, and instead of us wanting to change that all the time, we want to adapt to that as well and give them the ability to at least see them what is happening. So if I make the decision as an employee to work somewhere else, then how can Willem see exactly where I will be? So that if we want to work together and if the office or at least the company sets its people at the central position, then how can we do that in the best possible way? So thank you, Willem. Indeed, I want to show you something about the business model. So we thought about this and we see that the week planner has additional benefits that do not fit in any typical category that we have right now. Meaning it's not tied to desks, it's not tied to anything of licenses that we have, where we think that this is just an addition to another license. We make this available with a license model. So for that, as Willem said already, the week planner can be active at different locations. So we do not want to go into a user model where we say that every user will be charged a fee for using the week planner. We want to look at this on a location basis, meaning that every location a customer wants to use the week planner at, they will pay an annual fee of 499 as list price. So because we also see that this is new for not only us, but probably also for a lot of customers, we give every customer the option to get a free license of the week planner until the end of January 24. So you see a QR code here in the screen, and after this webinar, we will also send you some more information about that. But if you have any customers who might be interested, or you want to have a new thing to reach out to your customers with, then you can always give them the option to try the week planner out for free for until the end of January. Also, we can understand that for our channel, it's also something new. So for that, every company who registered to this webinar will receive 1 year license for free. meaning that if you register to this webinar, it's possible to ask for a week planner license, and we will add it to your own environment. So that the first year you can try this out, you can change all the settings just like Willem did to see, okay, what is actually happening with this, and also use it for yourself. So you already said something, Willem, about what we will do with the week planner, for example, at a later stage. So are there any ideas for 2024 how we will develop this?
Yeah, so the week planner is of course a new product in our portfolio. It's the starting phase of a more collaborative tool, and we want to extend that and add more functionalities. So as you might already know, we integrate a lot with other systems, and that's something which we will continue to do, as we believe that that's the best way forward. We are not able as GoBright to do everything ourselves, so therefore we need to integrate with other tools in an environment which users are already using. So mainly focusing then on, of course, Microsoft and Google. So that's also which we are focusing on for the week planner, the second version for 2024. So as I just showed you the part where you can actually see the contact information of your colleagues, so the email and the phone number. Our plan is actually also to add a Teams chat and Teams call there, so that you can directly from the GoBright system contact your colleagues if they are actually working remote. So as GoBright is more and more integrating in those kind of tools, as you also saw, of course, I used the GoBright plugin in Microsoft Teams. We try to integrate more and more so that users can actually use all the different systems, but specifically GoBright, and connect that with their other tools. Besides that, Google and Outlook also have added a feature where you can put in your location in the agenda. Of course, that's more difficult for users to check, because then you would have to check each agenda from all your team members individually to see which location they are working for that day. But of course, we want to integrate that information with our system and vice versa, so that the users only have to fill it in one place, but that the users can access it at both systems. Also, of course, how it works with our room booking solution, so that it doesn't matter where the user is actually working in or what they prefer to work in, that the information is always correct. So those are the goals for the first stages of the next week planner part, to actually integrate that more, so that users can collaborate more on the via the Teams part, but have more information in their Outlook and Google part as well. As mentioned, integration is a important part for us, but Jan-Maurice will tell a little bit more there as well.
Yeah, so that is interesting to know and interesting to hear. Of course, I know about it a little bit already. But as we see here, indeed, we want to make sure that we can connect with as much systems that are already used in the office as possible. Meaning that when we look at this from a user perspective, or so to say, when we look at this from the human office perspective, then we want to give the user the ability to make it as easy as possible for them to use this technology. So for that, already for quite some time, we are connected with Outlook, but also with Teams. As we see that with this, we have just one simple interface where everybody can do everything they need. They can work hybrid with Teams and Outlook, but also they can see what is in the office for them and who will be there at what time. So on the left side, we see some pictures about that on the user perspective, but of course, there's more to that that meets the eye. When we look on the right side, we also see, for example, Power BI, where we connect with, and we see that our total proposition is connected to this. So when we look at how GoBright is functioning, the user will always be the central part. But next to the user, there are a lot more people who use GoBright or who want to have some information about that. So the more we connect with other systems, the more options we can give to companies to or keep working with systems they already have, and also to use this as effective as possible. For example, when we look at Power BI, we are able to export all our data, what comes out of the system with analytics, to Power BI. And you might say, okay, but that's not for the users. But in the end, when we can see how the office is working, how people are working, we can also adapt the office back to that. So it becomes a circle where everything needs to be as easy as possible. And with all the data that we gather, we can also make sure that the office life will be a better experience in the future. So we've talked now for around 30 minutes. We showed you something about the week planner, about some things that we want to develop in the future. Of course, there is a lot more, but we also want to give some room for some questions. So I will close this down and I will see in the chat what kind of questions there are. So Willem, perhaps a question for you.
Yep.
Is there any possibility to add a picture of users via the GoBright portal?
Currently, that will not be in with the release of the pictures. So in the first stage, we will have the ability to synchronize the pictures from the Active Directory. But it's something we can, of course, note down and take into account for a next version for the week planner, that users will also be able to put those pictures in themselves. So yeah, that's not in yet, and yeah, we'll have to check if that's will be a possibility in the future.
Okay. And I see another question for you. Yeah, it might be weird if I ask questions and answer it myself. So
Okay, yeah, no, fine.
will you add any also the weekend days into the week planner?
Yeah, that could also be a possibility in the future. It's something we have discussed in the initial phases of the week planner, of course, if we wanted to add the weekend days. Yeah, during the designing process and the requirement phase, it came out as a low prio. Therefore, we haven't added it into the system, as we believe, 99% of the people or customers will not be using this part. So we focused firstly on the week, really the work week part. But if it's a request which will come in more often, then we are of course happy to look into adding that to the system as well.
Okay, well, thank you. I see another question. Perhaps this
Yep.
also requires a little bit more thought from our side. Someone asked, this year Microsoft will introduce Microsoft Spaces. Will this be a direct competition to Spaces? And are there any plans to integrate with that?
That's a good question. Microsoft has at least made an introduction for Microsoft Spaces, I think already like beginning of this year or at the end of last year. Until now, there isn't much more information regarding the Microsoft Spaces. I think the release date is also not really available yet, at least from my knowledge. So it's really hard to judge what they will actually be releasing and what their actual product will be. There will, of course, be some overlap in some functionalities, I guess. But yeah, also looking at a room booking solution, I think it can really work well together. And yeah, we will always have to check with Microsoft if we can also be integrating with that users can both use GoBright and Microsoft. However, I do not see a real threat there, as Microsoft's always a really big and large organization, and they work a lot with other parties to solve a lot of problems, as they are really a high over organization providing just a front end tool, just as with the room booking. Of course, they have the Outlook agenda for a very long time, but they need other parties as us to really extend the room booking functionality with catering, visitor management. I think as GoBright, we provide much more details and products to really provide a better experience for customers than I guess Microsoft Spaces will do in the end. Because on their first introduction, they also mentioned a lot of competitors of ours which they will be working with. So I guess it's that already answers the question, that they will not go into so much detail as we will. So but we'll have to see. There's not so much information to really be be sure what they will do. So yeah.
And I think it's also good to add to that that up until now we've worked and we are working with pretty much every Microsoft tool that there is where it makes sense for us to synchronize or to combine it. So in that case, if you look at the trend right now, it will probably make a lot of sense that there will be some kind of uh, combination of this or integration. And yeah, I think indeed we also have to wait for that to know a little bit more about what the planning actually is for this and how this will actually look like. But when we look at the past, what we've done with GoBright in collaboration with Microsoft, that probably gives you a good outlook about how we think about this in the future. Then another question, is there a maximum headcount for teams/departments?
I haven't run into it yet. No, I don't think there's a maximum headcount for teams, departments. Yeah, as we have customers with thousands of employees, so of course departments could be hundreds of people. Yeah, it only depends on how user friendly it will be if you have hundreds of users. But we have tested it with also a lot of users, of course, during our testing phases. So we haven't run into issues there.
Okay, thank you. I see at this moment in the chat that there is not any questions. I will give Bianca a couple of seconds. Now we see that these are the questions at this moment. Of course, we can understand perhaps that when you go into a conversation with a customer, this is also new territory for you. So as always, if you need any help from our side, from the GoBright team, please do not hesitate to reach out. You can always do that to me or to my colleagues. Also, at the end of this webinar, I'm almost certain that the colleagues from the marketing department will send you some additional information and also this webinar that we've recorded. So do not hesitate to contact us if you need any help with any customers or any other thing. Thank you right now for listening. Thank you, Willem and Bianca, for helping at this webinar.
Thank you as
And
well.
wish you a good day and see you the next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.